A single bite melts human tissue. Without antivenom, you have a 7% chance of survival. That is why you have exactly 24 hours before paradise becomes your grave. Off the coast of São Paulo, Brazil, lies a place so dangerous, so utterly forbidden, that the Brazilian government has banned all public access. An island wrapped in fear, half science, half nightmare, where the line between legend and reality is thin enough to cut. This is Ilha da Queimada Grande, better known to the world as Snake Island. And today we are going as close as it is legally possible to get, to understand why humans were banished from a place that looks like paradise from a distance. From the mainland, it does not look like a death sentence. It looks like a quiet green patch on the Atlantic, surrounded by water that reflects the sky like glass. But the closer you get, the more you realize the island is not silent. It is watching, waiting. Because on this island, the ground is not just ground. The branches are not just branches. The shadows are not just shadows. Everything that looks like harmless nature can be something alive, coiled, and lethal. Ilha da Queimada Grande is small, about 43 hectares. That is not a lot of land. You could cross it on foot in a short hike if this were any normal island. But it is not normal, because in those 43 hectares, there are an estimated 2,000 to 4,000 venomous snakes. That number is already terrifying, but what it really means is worse. It means that in many parts of the island, you are never far from a strike distance. Never far from a bite that turns time into your enemy. People who talk about Snake Island love the legends. They love to say that anyone who steps on it dies within a day. They tell stories about fishermen who docked there by accident and vanished. They whisper about a lighthouse keeper and his family who were supposedly found dead, attacked by snakes that came through the windows at night. Some versions make it sound like a horror movie, like the snakes planned it. And yes, parts of this are folklore. Stories grow sharper when people are scared. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Even if the stories are exaggerated, they are built on something real. Ilha da Queimada Grande is genuinely dangerous enough that one bad decision can end a life. Not because the snakes are evil, not because they hunt humans, but because the island is packed with venomous animals that do not need to chase you to kill you. They only need you to step too close. The ruler of this island is the golden lancehead viper, known scientifically as Bothrops insularis. This snake exists nowhere else on Earth, not in another forest, not in another country, not in a zoo in the wild, nowhere. If you remove it from this island, you remove it from the planet. That one fact alone would make the island important. But the golden lancehead is not just rare, it is also one of the most medically significant snakes in the Americas because of what its venom can do. To understand why it is so dangerous, you have to understand how the island was born. Thousands of years ago, at the end of the last ice age, the world changed shape. Glaciers melted, sea levels rose, land bridges disappeared underwater, and what used to be connected became isolated. Around 11,000 years ago, the piece of land that is now Ilha da Queimada Grande was cut off from mainland Brazil. When that happened, a population of jararaca-type snakes, relatives of mainland lanceheads, got trapped. No one carried them there. No one released them. They were simply left behind by geography. That is when evolution started writing a new story. On the mainland, snakes like these can hunt rodents and small mammals. On the island, that kind of prey was limited. There were not enough ground animals to feed a growing population of predators. But there were birds, migratory birds, birds that stop to rest, nest, or pass through on their routes. Birds are fast. Birds can fly away after being bitten, and that is a problem if you are a snake. So natural selection did what it always does. It rewarded what worked. If a snake's venom is slow, the bird escapes. The snake loses the meal. That snake is less likely to survive and reproduce. If the venom is fast and destructive, the bird drops, or weakens quickly, or cannot fly far. That snake eats. That snake survives. That snake passes on its traits. Over many generations, the island selected for venom that acts brutally and quickly. That is why the golden lancehead is often described as having venom far more potent than its mainland relatives, sometimes said to be several times stronger. The goal was not to torture prey. The goal was to stop flight. And the result is a venom that can destroy tissue, disrupt blood clotting, and collapse the body's systems with terrifying speed. A bite can lead to kidney failure, internal bleeding, brain hemorrhage, severe necrosis, where tissue begins to die and break down around the wound. People describe it as flesh melting because the damage can look like the body is being digested from the inside. And here is the part that turns this from scary into deadly math. Without immediate medical care, the fatality rate is often estimated around 7%. That means that out of 100 people bitten and untreated, about 93 might survive, but they could still be left with permanent damage, and 7 might not come back at all. And on an island like this, where you cannot drive to a hospital, time is not just important. Time is everything. So when people say you have 24 hours, it is not a magical curse. It is a way of saying that every minute after a bite is a step closer to catastrophe. You would need evacuation, you would need treatment, you would need antivenom, you would need monitoring for organ failure and bleeding, and you would need all of that fast. Now imagine dealing with that in a place where snakes are not a rare sight, but the default background of the environment. Some estimates claim that in certain areas there could be 1 to 5 snakes per square meter. That number is debated, and it can depend on season and location. But even the possibility tells you what kind of island this is. It is not just that there are snakes, it is that the landscape is built around them. They can be on the ground under leaves. They can be half hidden against tree roots. They can be in the branches above you, because golden lanceheads do not only live on the forest floor. They can hunt in vegetation, using camouflage so good that your eyes slide right past them until it is too late. And that is why expeditions to the island are not adventure tourism. They are controlled operations. Brazil does not allow the public to step on the island. Access is restricted. Only a few groups are permitted. The Brazilian Navy, which historically has maintained the lighthouse, and authorized researchers, usually working under strict permits. The lighthouse itself, once manned, is now automated. That detail matters because it shows how even basic human presence became a risk. When researchers go, they go with protective gear, thick boots, snake-resistant gaiters, and protocols designed to reduce accidents. They move slowly, they plan routes, and they are often accompanied by medical support with antivenom available, because even professionals do not gamble with a mistake here. But here is the twist. The island is not forbidden only to protect humans. It is forbidden to protect the island. Because the golden lancehead is critically endangered. Its entire world population is concentrated in one tiny place. That makes it fragile. A single wildfire, a disease outbreak, a wave of habitat destruction, or the introduction of an invasive species could crash the population. And humans, even when they mean well, are extremely good at bringing problems with them. Then there is the darker reason, poaching. The illegal wildlife trade loves rarity. A snake that exists only on one island, that has a reputation as one of the deadliest, becomes a trophy. The black market value for a single golden lancehead can reach tens of thousands of dollars, depending on who is buying and what they plan to do with it. Some want exotic pets, others want venom, others want status. And every illegal capture is not just theft, it is a bullet in the heart of a species that cannot relocate, cannot expand, and cannot recover quickly. So the government restriction serves two purposes at once. It protects people from the snakes, and it protects the snakes from people. And despite the fear, the island is scientifically priceless. Ilha da Queimada Grande is a living laboratory of evolution, a closed system, a snapshot of natural selection under extreme pressure. Scientists study the golden lancehead not only because it is fascinating, but because venom is chemistry, and chemistry can become medicine. It sounds insane, but some of the most powerful drugs in human history come from poisons, toxins, and venoms, because these substances are designed by nature to interact with the body in precise, powerful ways. Compounds in snake venom have already influenced treatments related to blood pressure, clotting, and cardiovascular disease. And researchers believe that components of the golden lancehead venom could hold clues for new therapies, potentially helping scientists understand pathways involved in blood clots, heart conditions, and other complex diseases. That does not mean the venom is a miracle cure. It means it is a blueprint, a starting point, a deadly formula that, with enough research, could be turned into something that saves lives instead of ending them. That is why the island is protected like a vault, because inside this vault is not gold, not treasure, not pirates. Inside it is information, biological information, a unique species, a unique venom, a unique evolutionary story that cannot be recreated if it is lost. And it is not only snakes. The island has a broader ecosystem. Migratory birds use it as a stopover and nesting area. Those birds are not just visitors. They are part of the energy flow that sustains the predators. The forest itself supports insects, smaller animals, and a web of life that is balanced in a way most humans never see, because most humans never get to walk there. Even the surrounding waters matter. The sea around the island is rich with marine biodiversity, with fish, rays, turtles, and other ocean life that benefits from the limited human intrusion. Since people cannot freely land, the island's coastline remains less disturbed than many other areas along the heavily populated coast of southeastern Brazil. In a strange way, the fear of the island acts like a shield, keeping it more intact than places that look safer. That creates a weird contradiction. Ilha da Queimada Grande is both a nightmare and a sanctuary. It is a place that can kill you, and a place that must be protected. It is a warning sign and a conservation success story at the same time. So when we talk about being banished from this island, it is not just that humans are not welcome. It is that humans are not needed here. This is not a place for hiking, camping, or exploring. This is a place that reminds you nature does not exist to entertain you. It exists on its own terms, and the golden lancehead is the perfect symbol of that. It did not become what it is because it wanted to scare humans. Humans arrived in the story late. It became what it is because isolation forces change, because survival demands adaptation, because an island with limited prey and plenty of birds created a predator designed for speed and efficiency. And when you build a predator for speed, you build a venom that gives you almost no second chances. That is why the myths persist. That is why people tell stories about instant death, about curses, about families trapped in lighthouses. People use myth to explain fear. But even without myth, the truth is enough. An island with thousands of venomous snakes, a critically endangered species, a black market target, and a venom that can destroy tissue and shut down organs is not a place you casually visit. It is a place you respect from a distance. And maybe that is the real lesson of Snake Island. Some places are not meant to be conquered. They are meant to be understood, protected, and left alone. Ilha da Queimada Grande remains one of the most intimidating locations on Earth, not because it is haunted, but because it is real. Because evolution happened there in isolation and produced something lethal. Because one wrong step can turn a beautiful view into a medical emergency you cannot outrun. And because the island's greatest value is not in what humans can take from it, but in what it can teach us, as long as we do not destroy it. So the next time you see a picture of Snake Island and think it looks like paradise, remember the truth behind the green. Paradise can kill. And on this island, the clock starts ticking the moment the venom enters your blood. Thanks for coming with us to the edge of the forbidden. If this story pulled you in, stick around for the next one, because there are more places on Earth that look calm on the surface and hide something wild underneath.